the papers, our political editor at the Sunday Mirror, Nigel Nelson, and writer and academic Mo Lovett. And here they are now, been with us throughout the morning. And Nigel, Rishi Sunak seems to have built up quite an appetite for picking up fights left, right and centre, the unions currently and now Netflix. But is this where his energy needs to be focused? This is a story about the Telegraph. Sunak takes on Netflix amid Harry and Meghan row.
Yes, I mean, the idea is that he wants to bring Netflix and the other streaming services under regulation by Ofcom, much the same as Sky is regulated by Ofcom and the BBC, which seems quite a reasonable idea, because at the moment there is no way people can make complaints about such things as inaccuracy, because the streamers aren't actually regulated. So the example that the Telegraph is giving is from the Harry and Meghan series, where they claim they were being hounded by the press by using some footage which was not of them at all, but of a Harry Potter premiere which actually happened 5 years before they met. That kind of thing, if someone wanted to make a complaint, could be handled by Ofcom.
Absolutely. Okay, let's move on to the Sunday Mirror. And Mo, I'll come to you on this one. Just looking at these figures there, absolutely astonishing. MOD's 756k taxi bill, that's about £15,000 a week. Where are they catching these taxis to Timbuktu?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, this is a story that really rankled with me after having stood on a freezing cold station on Thursday night waiting for a replacement bus services. I know so many people have done this week with strikes and inclement weather and all the rest of it. So, yeah, as you say, it's been discovered that the Ministry of Defence is spending almost £15,000 per week on cabs. One example in this particular piece is that there was one booking which cost £5,000. Now, it was several vehicles over a 3-day period, but it was essentially taxiing people from Whitehall to Brize Norton in Oxfordshire. So that's £5,000, when actually a first class ticket, never mind a standard class, would only cost you £64 from London to Oxford. Ministry of Defence has hit back and said, sometimes we send our staff and our VIPs and all the rest of it to remote places that aren't accessible by public transport. But actually, we all go to places that aren't accessible. We get as far as we can on public transport and then have to cab it the rest of the way. So, I mean, it's just worth noting that figure that you quoted, £750,000 last year on taxis and chauffeur-driven limousines. That's double what it was in 2020 during the COVID lockdown, which you might think is perhaps a little bit more understandable because people were looking at secure ways to travel and the government has an important job to play. But yeah, that's excessive, isn't it? £15,000 per week. Just rankled with me after, the chaos that we've all had to endure this week on public transport.
Exactly. And I can only just picture, the picture you paint there, standing in that freezing cold there, or waiting around trying to get your car to warm up, at 2 o'clock in the morning to get it. There you go. Try that one. Let's just, I'll come to you, Nigel, for this next one. This is focusing on Suella Braverman and her position and rhetoric around immigration, proving rather controversial. And actually, we have to remember that Priti Patel, before her, also proved very controversial when it came to her stance on immigration.
Yes, that's absolutely right. But this is from the outgoing violence against women czar Nimco Ali, who has fallen out with Suella Braverman. And she says that the language the Home Secretary is using can incite racism. And I think she's probably right, that the Home Secretary uses sort of words like invasion, and she calls asylum seekers illegal migrants, which they're not. I mean, it may be hugely unwise to cross the channel, but it's not actually illegal under international law, and that's because asylum seekers have to actually be physically in Britain to be able to claim asylum. It may well be they'll become illegal migrants if they disappear after that, but until they do, they're not.
And going on to a different topic then, Mo, in the Telegraph there, page 8 of the Telegraph, the headline there, women to get contraceptive pill without seeing a GP. On the face of it, this seems a smart idea moving forward, so women are not having to be saddled with any sort of stress or trauma going through that. But any drawbacks at all here that you're picking up?
Well, I mean, I suppose if you looked into the nuts and bolts, there might be, but I actually think it's rather good news. It's basically the idea is that NHS England will roll out this pilot scheme which will enable pharmacists to prescribe tablets and carry out checkups, and that'll include, taking women's BMI and their blood pressure as well, to enable them to get over-the-counter contraceptive pills. Now, at the moment, you can only get free contraceptive pills through an appointment with your GP, and obviously we know how stretched GPs are at the moment, or you can pay to get a particular type of contraceptive pill at your pharmacist. So in a sense, I think this is I can only see the good in this. First of all, it gives women a lot more control and a lot more access over their own kind of sexual reproductive rights, and it also kind of relieves some pressure on GPs. So at the moment, it's going to be trialled early next year. 2 pharmacies are going to trial it, one in Stoke-on-Trent and one in Portsmouth. But I think about 300 pharmacies have signed up to be part of this scheme. And, pharmacists are incredibly highly trained. They're often a lot more accessible. I know a lot of us during the pandemic relied on our pharmacists to help us with advice and the medication we needed. So, yeah, I can only see the upsides at the moment, Vanessa. I'm sure somebody will find a downside. But if they're able to take, check. Yeah.
Mo, we're running out of time, unfortunately, but thank you so much. It's been lovely to have both of you, Mo Lovett and Nigel Nelson. Thank you so much indeed. I'll see you after this break.